Welcome back, everyone, to this Week 8 edition of Bruce Monnin's Computer Points Podcast. I am Bruce Monnin, your host, recording from our studio in Minster, Ohio, where today I was hailed upon quite violently this afternoon as tiles of ice about the size of Tic Tacs came down on my head as I was out for my afternoon walk.
Really?
Winter must be coming, Rebekah.
It is a frigid, 52 here in Cincinnati. Got down to 40 this morning.
Man, it was, I think, 48 degrees at the time, but all of a sudden it got dark. Then it just let loose. Fortunately, I was right near a grocery store and could pop in for a few minutes until it did stop. But I survived the pelting.
That is good news.
Also, checking in from the greater Cincinnati area, home of those 4-2 Cincinnati Bearcats, who enjoyed a road win at the infamous Bounce House down at Central Florida this weekend.
Bounce House.
I believe it's come up before. It is so
Probably
called
has.
because it was made with steel instead of concrete. And especially when they first opened it, it tended to bounce quite a bit. The television cameras would go up and down when the students would jump up and down. They've since reinforced the steel. Thank
That's
heavens.
good.
But it's still steel and it still bounces.
I was picturing a big inflatable bouncy castle right at the entrance.
But checking in from that Cincinnati area we just mentioned is our co-host, executive producer, and chief researcher, Rebekah Monnin.
Always happy to be here. Happy to do my due diligence as executive producer and realize that the notes I have are, in fact, your Daily Standard article and not podcast notes that I can refer to.
You'll notice there's a second email that has the correct notes on it. It says, oops, sent you the wrong ones.
Is there? Because all I see is podcast notes from 9:30 a.m. and podcast link.
I sent it to myself. Maybe I forgot to include you on the list. That's what I did.
Happy to be here as the executive producer, and wow, my voice was loud in my ears. Ooh, new technology. Doing our best.
Oh, Rebekah, homecoming is next week in Cincinnati as they host the 5-1 and I believe 27th ranked Arizona State, whatever the Arizona Staters are, Sun Devils, I believe. Any big homecoming plans for you this weekend?
I will be attending the game in person. I was a little bit irritated by it because they didn't announce the kickoff time until 4 days ago. So everyone is asking me, humble brag, I had 3 different people ask me if they wanted to do something on Saturday, and I was like, well, I'm going to a football game. I don't know when, and I don't know for how long, but probably the whole day.
As I'm sure Rebekah now knows, that game is at noon.
It sure is at noon.
All part of the grand conspiracy by Cincinnati to force a team 3 hours behind in time zone right now to play at 9 a.m. their local time. And yes, I know Arizona is in the mountain time zone, but they are not on daylight savings time. So they are actually 3 hours off from Cincinnati at the moment.
Interesting.
Yes. By the way, if you're interested in game times, Rebekah, next week's game against Colorado kicks off at 10:15 p.m.
In Colorado?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a little bit more
10:15.
reasonable.
So 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, more like 8:15 Colorado time.
Yeah.
That is part of Colorado's grand scheme to play the game after the UC players are used to being in bed.
Yeah, probably. They say it's for broadcasting. I don't believe them.
Another interesting tidbit I found, Rebekah, ESPN projections currently have our Bearcats either playing against Oregon State in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl.
A heck of a name.
Or against Oregon in the Texas Bowl. I don't see that. I think Oregon looks playoff bound to me after seeing them survive Ohio State this last week.
I'm inclined to believe you.
So on the high school front, we have reached the final 2 weeks of the high school football regular season. Surprisingly, not too many changes were made in the guaranteed postseason seedings of our teams, though I truly expect that to change before our next episode. So we are just going to dive right in. You ready to go, Rebekah?
I am ready to go. Plugged in, focused up.
Well, there's good. That's a good change. Yes.
Good change. Although, be warned, I got a flu shot today, so my arm is a little bit sore. That might inhibit my performance in the clicking and searching.
Then maybe on our YouTube version, we should have you showing off the Band-Aid like all those famous people that get their shots.
Sure, I'm all for people getting flu shots.
In Division One, Region One, one of those beautiful Division One regions with everyone except one or two teams making the playoffs. We have number 10 Findlay. They are expected to lose to 6-2 Toledo Whitmer this week. Then they are expected to defeat winless Sylvania Northview the next week.
So not a lot of change in points, huh?
Nope, I'm expecting the Trojans to end the season with the same number 10 seed they currently inhabit.
Not too bad. Respectable.
And that was so exhausting, we're already going to take a break and move into our scores of the week.
Scores of the week.
We're trying. Okay.
Now,
How
for
many
those
scores
of
of the week are you talking about?
8, but we're not going into details of any of them, so it'll be quick.
Okay.
Now, I want everyone to know, in case you are readers of Press Pros magazine, that I had written this section before I read the Press Pros article where they noticed the exact same thing I did about last week. So here we go. Our scores of the week. It's not my favorite trend, but it was definitely a trend this week. We had St. Mary's beating Kenton 64-28.
Oof.
And Sonia over Tri-County North 52-7. A little 8-man action here. Lakeside Danbury beat Sebring McKinley 52-0.
Ooh.
Tip City Tippecanoe 63, West Carrollton 6.
I'm picking up a trend.
Dayton Northridge 68, Troy Christian 7. Trotwood Madison 67, Dayton Dunbar 0. Lima Senior 79, Toledo Waite 0. And London 85, Tecumseh 0. And that was just the ones that were from our coverage area, or there's a couple that are just on the edge. There were many more around the state. I'm not sure what happened last Friday night, but there
Hey,
were
what the
a
heck?
lot of ugly scores. Yes.
So many
I guess
blowouts.
the weather was nice, easy to put up points, maybe. Maybe at the end of the season, some teams are kind of folding up their tent, losing their ambition to play defense, maybe. I don't know, but there were some ugly scores I was not fond of seeing this.
Goodness, 85-0. That's, oh, 10, 12 touchdowns,
Yeah, probably 12.
3 a quarter. That's a lot.
And as we move into Division Two, Region 8, I'm going to highlight one of those, which is even worse than it seemed. We'll start with undefeated 8-0 Lima Senior. They dropped 3 places to number 9 after they scored 79 first half points to beat
First
Toledo
half.
Waite first half to beat Toledo Waite 79-0. So that has to be 11 touchdowns in the
5 or
first half.
6 a quarter. What were they doing in the second half? Putting in their junior high team and letting them just sit there?
I certainly hope so. That was, I think anyone who paid for that game needs a refund, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
They do have a player who is under some consideration for Mr. Football, and he put up some stats. All in the first half, by the way.
You'd have to.
Back to the overall picture for Lima Senior here. The Spartans should finish with the number 7 seed in this region unless they lose to 5-3 Toledo Start in week 10. That would drop them down to number 9 and send them on the road with a 9-1 record, which tells you there's not a lot of second level points coming in for Lima Senior for all these wins.
No. Dear Lord.
Number 13 Troy beat 4-4 Stebbins last week and are favored against 3-5 Fairborn and 4-4 Sydney the next 2 weeks. 1 win gets the Trojans into the playoffs. 2 wins gets Troy as high as the number 11 seed, so they could rise 2 more spots if they finish out the season with 2 wins. Our 14th ranked team, 4-4 Sydney, lost 46-43 to 6-2 Vandalia Butler. Sound like a real heartbreaker.
Yeah, but a better game than the first one we talked about.
Well, that's for sure. That loss dropped the Yellow Jackets 2 spots down to number 14. If they have losses to 3-5 Piqua and 4-4 Troy, that will probably drop Sydney down to number 17 in the standings and out of the playoffs by 1 spot. They are somewhat underdogs in both those games. One win, however, locks up their spot in the playoffs. Now, 3-5 Piqua fell 4 positions to number 18 after losing to undefeated Xenia. The win in week 10 at 3-5 Fairborn will give the Indians about a 50-50 shot at the playoffs. It'll keep people a little nervous. So what would be useful for Piqua would be to pick up a win over 4-4 Sydney this week, which would almost guarantee them a spot in the postseason.
Mm.
By the way, Rebekah, I did get some listener feedback.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were happy that by the end of our ping pong ball episode, of our bingo ball episode, that you were not as annoyed by it as you seemed at the beginning. So they said
That's
that was
good.
nice that you adapted.
Sounds awful lot like feedback from a family member.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Happy I adapted. Not that they enjoyed the format, just that they liked my flexibility.
I did not get feedback either way on their personal enjoyment of the bingo ball idea.
I enjoyed the bingo ball system itself. Just think the scrolling back and forth along the document was a little chaotic.
So if we faked it and did all the balls ahead of time, then rearranged it and rearranged the document. But I hate to fake things for our loyal
No, that
listeners.
ruins the fun of the bingo ball system. There's a way to do it. I don't know what it is, but there's a way.
This week we're going in order, and that leads us to Division 3, Region 10. We will start with 5-3 Defiance. They stay at number 6 despite being shut out 28-0 by 5-3 Lima Bath. Defiance should fall no further than number 8 if they lose to both 5-3 Salina and 4-4 Ottawa Glandor. 2 victories in those games should land the Bulldogs in the number 5 spot, I believe. And a split of those 2 games leaves them around number 6 or number 7, but either way, hosting a playoff game. 2-6 Lima Shawnee fell out of the top 16 to number 17 after losing to 3-5 Van Wert. The Indians can move back up to number 16 with a win over 4-4 Ottawa Glandorf this week. An additional win over 1-7 Kenton to end the season could push Shawnee as high as number 13. Neither of those games will be easy, but they are both winnable. Oh, hey, look, Rebekah, we have some more fan input.
Oh, boy.
I received a note on the high school fan internet board, yappy.net, something we never promote, but which I was found anyway, by a user LS92, saying he just caught up on an old podcast or two and noted our week 6 incomprehensible stat of the week. If you remember that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Can figure it out.
We sent a long note going through a bunch of numbers, showing how that is possible, that such a thing could happen, where in this case, Bellefontaine would clinch a playoff spot with a loss, but not with a win. Went through some possibilities, how that sort of thing could make sense in certain situations, but in the end agreed it made absolutely no sense whatsoever for Bellefontaine. He's just as lost as we were. So I guess that remains our incomprehensible stat of week 6.
I'm impressed somebody went and tried to crunch the numbers.
Yeah. And he came up with some scenarios where it might be possible, but it didn't apply in this case. But always happy for the input. Moving on to Division 3, Region 12. We usually start at the top of the rankings in each region, but in this case, I'd like to offer congratulations to 6-2 Bellefontaine, who we are now proclaiming to be playoff bound after a big 50-19 victory over 6-2 Urbana. Lots of computer points in that one.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it.
The Chieftains can move up to number 7 in a home playoff game. Yes.
That's a big move from not certain to number 7 in the playoffs.
Yep. They are currently now ranked number 9. They could get up to number 7 and get that home playoff game if they defeat 4-4 Jonathan Alder and 7-1 Kenton Ridge. And that second one's going to be tough, I believe.
Probably will be.
Maybe not, though. It says here Bell Fountain is favored by 3 touchdowns or so in each contest.
Maybe Kenton Ridge wasn't playing the most challenging schedule.
Yeah, or at least not as much as Bell Fountain's.
Or not as much as Bell Fountain's.
Anyway, back to the top. 8-0 Tip City Tippecanoe locks up the number 1 seed with a win over 4-4 Riverside Stebbins this week, or when they play at 8-0 Xenia in their final regular season game. Again, without looking at the numbers in great depth, I'd say the Riverside game has much more possibility.
Sure does sound like it.
We seem to talk every week about someone who lost to Xenia.
Well, when they're 8-0, that's 8 teams that have lost to Xenia.
Probably not all in our coverage area, but enough of it.
Not entirely.
At number 4 in the standings, undefeated Wapakoneta
Number
is
4.
favored to win. Yeah, they are favored to win by 4 or more touchdowns, the 2 games remaining on their schedule, which should earn them either the number 2 or number 3 seed. I believe we mentioned this before, but 7-1 Cincinnati Archbishop McNicholas will challenge Wapak for the second spot if they defeat 6-2 Hamilton Baden in Week 10. And I've heard enough of Hamilton Baden through the years to know that that's usually a tough team.
Yep. Not an easy win.
At 6-2, St. Mary's is also a big favorite in their final 2 games. If the Rough Riders defeat both 2-6 Elida and 5-3 Lima Bath, they should finish with the number 8 seed in this region, which, by the way, is exactly where they are right now.
Consistency.
A loss in one of those games probably drops St. Mary's to number 9. You'll notice it's only 1 spot. There is actually right now a huge drop-off in the rankings between the number 9 team and the teams ranked 10 and below. So anyone above number 10 has a lot of gap to play with.
They're feeling pretty comfortable up there, huh?
Yep. Problem is they don't want to be comfortable in the top 9. They want to be comfortable in the top 8.
Yeah, well.
And finally, that brings us to 5-3 Salina. They are a large underdog in Week 10 against Wapakoneta. So this week's game against 5-3 Defiance is critical. If they lose, Bulldogs seem to be headed for the number 15 seed in the playoffs. But that spot in the postseason is not guaranteed. It's possible they could drop all the way out of the top 16. Probably not, but is possible. The win over Defiance makes playoffs definite and makes a number 10 or number 11 seed more likely. Division 4, Region 14. And we're going to keep up with the trend here. Welcome to the postseason, 4-4 Ottawa Glandorf, who moved up 4 positions to number 9 with a win over 5-3 Salina. The Titans still have a shot at a home playoff game. They have to sweep 2-6 Lima Shawnee and 5-3 Defiance to earn that. 4-4 Napoleon tumbled 4 places to number 13 with their loss to 6-2 Oregon Clay. It appears the Wildcats will finish no higher than number 9 in the final standing. So in the playoffs, but they're going to be hitting the road. 2-6 Elida now holds the 16th and final playoff spot. Not bad being the top 16 with only 2 wins, actually.
Absolutely.
However, to remain in the top 16, the Bulldogs will need to upset either 6-2 St. Mary's or 3-5 Van Wert. And that, of course, brings us to 3-5 Van Wert. They rose 5 places after beating 2-6 Lima Shawnee, and they are currently 1 spot out of the postseason at number 17. Cougars are probably in the playoffs with a win over 1-7 Kenton or 2-6 Elida. They are definitely in the postseason if they beat both of them.
I thought we were expecting Van Wert to do a heck of a lot better than this in the preseason.
I was. Now you can see by the record of the teams they have left that their schedule may have been a little front-loaded.
Might have been.
Yeah, I was still expecting more like 6 or 7 wins out of Van Wert this year instead of the 3-5 they're going to end up with. But that's what I get for not going and scouting every team in person.
Right. We're only so good.
In Division 4, Region 16, we follow Urbana. They are number 6. They will probably not gain enough points from playing winless Tecumseh to ensure a top 8 finish. So their big game is next week at 8-0 London. A win would allow the Hilltoppers to open the playoffs at home and might even move them all the way up into the top. In Division 5, we'll start with Region 18. 8-0 Liberty Center is a big favorite in their final 2 games. The Tigers will end up with the number 2 seed in this region unless Milan Edison loses to either 7-1 Vermilion or 6-2 Huron. Those both sound possible. Says here Milan Edison is favored by 20 points in both games, however.
Yeah, it sounds like a possible win.
Our other teams, 7-1 Liberty Benton, charges upward 3 positions after destroying 5-3 Lipson. They have expected wins over winless Arcadia and 4-4 Van Buren. If they come through with those, that should have the Eagles finishing with the number 6 or number 7 seed. Good news, they get a home playoff game. Bad news, that would put them up against like maybe Liberty Center in the second.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. Sorry. Oh, I dropped my cat because he's so heavy. Fun fact
And
to
here
listeners, if you have a 15 to 17 pound cat, picking him up one-handed is not easy to do.
Maybe you should get some weights and start working out with some curls so you can do that.
Oh, I should definitely start working out, but he also should not eat all of Jasper's food before Jasper can get to it. That would help.
So the rule of thumb in Mother Nature is if you have 2 cats, one will be heavier and one will be lighter, right?
Oh yeah.
Unless
Wonder
you can
which one is
separate
the heavier one, huh?
unless you can separate them at supper time every day.
It's not happening.
So we're going to take a break here in the middle of Division 5 for our Team of the Week.
Team of the week. Ba, ba, ba. Our team never seems so good. So good, so good, so good. Team of the week. Ba, ba, ba. We believed we always would.
Woo!
And once again, you just heard our Team of the Week theme song, which was recorded during the Minster Oktoberfest by the German Twist Singers. My choice this week was not quite so obvious. I had to search for a while until I decided who would be our Team of the Week. So this episode, we are giving it to St. Paris Graham. The Falcons were 12-point underdogs, but beat 5-3 Springfield Northwestern 37-21 to stay alive for the playoffs.
Oh,
I
nice.
believe we actually mentioned last week that they needed that win just to stay alive, or else we could write them off. So big win for Graham. They are favored over 2-6 North Union and 1-7 Ben Logan to end the season. If they win them, that would give them 4 wins in a row after starting 0-6 and would put them in the playoffs.
Pretty
So
good string of games.
congratulations, Graham.
Yeah.
Yes.
No kidding. That's fantastic.
To our other Division 5 region, Region 20 we go. 7-1 West Liberty Salem. Ooh, they should be in that other region, in our Liberty region, shouldn't they?
We'll have to write a note of concern to the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Put all
I'm
the
sure they'll
liberties together for us.
West Liberty Salem easily defeated 5-3 Mechanicsburg to secure a home playoff game. And I'm pretty sure a victory over 1-7 Triad ensures a top 4 seed for West Liberty Salem in the postseason.
They're Tigers.
Yeah, the Tigers are number 4 right now. So if they can just beat Triad, they should be able to stay in top. And we have some more congratulations to offer. Our 2 new playoff-bound squads here, Lima Bath and Indian Lake. We'll start with 5-3 Lima Bath. They rose 5 places to number 5 with their big upset of 5-3 Defiance. If the Wildcats lose to both 8-0 Wapakoneta and 6-2 St. Mary's, and I say it that way because I'm big fans of Wapakoneta and St. Mary's. I'm guessing
You are.
Lima Bath's in trouble those 2 weeks. But if they lose them both, they will probably return down to 10th place in the standings. If they can win one of the two games, Bath will have a home playoff game. 6-2 Indian Lake is number 6, and they can hold on to a top 8 finish with a victory over 5-3 Springfield Northwestern. A win over 2-6 North Union next week may also accomplish the same task. 5-3 Versailles is probably a number 5 seed if, and I say if, they can post upsets against 8-0 Coldwater and 4-4 St. Henry. One win in those two games gives the Tigers about a 50-50 chance of having a home playoff game. If they lose both, it should drop Versailles into the vicinity of about a number 12 seed. Our number 10 ranked team, Miami East, and number 11, Milton Union, both 5-3 right now. Wins as a 24-point favorite against both 2-6 Bethel and 3-5 Covington would put Miami East into the top 8. For Milton Union to join the Vikings in hosting a playoff game, they would need to defeat 5-3 Northridge in what looks to be about a 50-50 game that could go either way. Next, we'll look at 4-4 Arcanum. They keep hanging around the number 14 spot. The Trojans play winless Dixie and 1-7 Bradford to end the season. 2 wins probably keeps Arcanum right around number 14. Should they suffer an upset loss, they'll probably drop all the way down to number 15.
So they're pretty
Just
locked in.
Not a lot of points available either way for Arcanum in their final 2 games. And we mentioned as our team of the week, 2-6 St. Paris Graham won their second game in a row, an upset of 5-3 Springfield Northwestern. With those 2 wins, they have now reached number 16 in the standings, and they are 2 touchdown favorites against both 2-6 North Union and 1-7 Ben Logan. Graham probably needs to win both of those games to reach the playoffs. They pulled off an upset. Now they just have to make sure they don't suffer. Okay?
Absolutely. You want to continue right on rolling.
Keep that upward trend going, huh?
Exactly.
Now I take a deep breath. We start one of our big regions.
Buckle in.
Division 6, Region 22. I'm going to start with number 10, Tenora, because they are our newest playoff-bound team in this region. One more win against either 6-2 Paulding or 5-3 Edgerton likely gets the Rams a home playoff game. Heading back to the top, number 2 Bluffton, still undefeated, and will lock up their number 2 seed with a win over 4-4 Allen East. 6-2 Patrick Henry rose from number 7 to number 4 after defeating 6-2 Delta. Good win for Patrick Henry there. To remain in the top 4, the Patriots will need to beat 5-3 Archbold. There's some good games in that conference, the NWOAL there, I tell you.
Good games coming up.
6-2 Sherwood Fairview also rose 3 positions to number 5 after beating 5-3 Edgerton. A victory over either 3-5 Wayne Trace or 2-6 Hicksville will ensure a home playoff game for Fairview. 4-4 Spencerville drops from number 6 to number 9 after losing to 6-2 Lima Central Catholic. The Bearcats are unlikely to climb back into the top 8, even if they sweep their 2 games against 3-5 Convoy Crestview and 1-7 Delphus Jefferson. So in the playoffs, but on the road for Spencerville. Though they have a 6-2 record, Paulding is only ranked number 13 in this region. They can lock up their playoff berth with a win over 5-3 Tenora. So 6-2, but not quite ensured a playoff spot yet. Win over Tenora this week would get them there. Number 15, Van Buren fell to 4-4 after losing to 7-1 Ada. If they wish to remain in the top 16, Black Knights need to defeat both 0-8 Elmwood and 7-1 Liberty Benton. To be honest, I bet you they could get away without the Elmwood game to beat 7-1 Liberty Benton.
Yeah, you think?
But I'm guessing if they can beat Liberty Benton, they probably have a good shot against them winless.
Do you think they could move up much if they beat Liberty Benton? Or is it just a secure in the top 16?
I actually think if they beat Liberty Benton, they could probably move all the way up to number 12, or at least somewhere in that vicinity. So, yeah, getting up to number 12 would allow Van Buren to avoid teams like probable number 1 seed Hopewell Loudon in Bluffton and teams like that. Maybe even Patrick Henry in the first round. I think I'd like to avoid Bluffton and Patrick Henry myself. Don't know much about Hopewell Loudon, other than they're undefeated, which tells me something. And finally, 3-5 Convoy Crestview remains at number 19, and they are going to need to defeat both 4-4 Spencerville and 6-2 Lima Central Catholic to be in the postseason. And that's a tall order. Lima, like I said, I'm a big fan of Lima Central Catholic. I think they're a tough out. We'll look into that more next week.
Absolutely.
Over in Region 23 of Division 6, Mechanicsburg, ranked 14th. Ooh. They fell to 5-3 after that loss this last week. The Indians should guarantee a playoff spot if they can beat Triad in Week 10. Triad is currently 1-7 and out of playoff contention. A victory over 5-3 Springfield Northeastern this weekend would put Mechanicsburg in the vicinity of about a number 12 seed. Finishing off Division 6, we have Region 24.
Okie dokie.
Coldwater, as we said last week, I believe, still locked into the number 1 seed in this region. Their first round playoff opponents look like, Covington or Miami Valley Christian, as most likely. 5-3 Anna is currently number 2 in the standings, which probably tells you why Coldwater is locked in as number 1. They have a 3-win advantage over the number 2 team. Not to mention they beat them already. Anna's expected to defeat 2-6 Fort Recovery and 1-7 Parkway to finish the season. They'll probably finish second in this region, although I expect Cincinnati Country Day would pass Anna for the number 2 seed if they defeat 7-1 St. Bernard Elmwood Place in Week 10. There's another school, Paint Valley, who could pass Anna for that number 2 seed. But they would have to upset 7-1 Chillicothe Unioto this week. 3-5 Covington lost this week, but rose 1 position to number 11. Not a lot of positive movement down there in that area of the standings.
That seems to be a trend this late in the season.
It does. It can happen, yes.
Yeah.
If our listeners out there follow college basketball any, you know that ESPN has a guy named Joe Lunardi who tracks who's going to make the tournament and who's not all year long, and who are the bubble teams who are on the border.
Okay.
And he has a saying that says, at the end of the season, bubble teams tend to lose because that's what bubble teams do. So
okay.
take it for what you will. But anyway, Covington, 2 or more touchdown underdogs in their final 2 games. Their odds to make the playoffs, however, if they lose both those games, it was 40% last week. It is now 84%. Things went their way this week. So even if they lose out, there's an 84% chance they sneak into the playoffs.
Interesting.
If they could happen to beat both 3-5 DeGraff Riverside and 5-3 Miami East, they would probably move all the way up to the number 8 seed and host a playoff game.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. But that'd be a fight, I would think.
They are 2 or more touchdown underdogs in both of those games. So, yes, that would be a fight. And we have 4-4 Lima Perry hanging on to a playoff spot at number 15 currently. Wins over both 3-5 Marion Elgin and 2-6 Morrill Ridgedale guarantees the Commodores a playoff berth. 1 win is probably good enough, but I'm not guaranteeing anything with just 1.
Right. Okie-doke. Oh, we'll just have to see how that turns out.
Yes, we will. Now on to Division 7. We'll start with Region 26, where most of the drama is out of it. In fact, if I were a betting man, I could tell you the 16 teams that would be in the playoffs, and I don't think I'd get very good odds. But fortunately, I am not a betting man. That's why I still have money.
I don't even know where you'd go to bet on that. I don't know that Vegas cares much.
I would not want to find out where to go to bet on high school sports, but I know where to bet on lots of other things. By the way, I saw in a side note there, the final big cycling race of the year happened Saturday, the Il Lombardia, the race of the falling leaves.
Ooh.
My man, or not my man, I usually root against him, but the star of this season, Tadej Pogacar.
You usually root against him.
Well, it's kind of like rooting against the New York Yankees when they were winning everything. You get tired of the same people winning everything, right? But old Tade was I believe his odds were something like negative 400 for this race, which means if you bet $400, they would pay you back 100 in profit. And he was one of like 150 riders in the race.
Jeez.
By the way,
All
he won
right.
by like 3 minutes away from everyone else. So that would have been a good bet.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
However,
Negative 400.
go back to Region 26. There are still 14 of the 16 playoff spots locked up in this region. And barring something incredibly outrageous, Delta St. John's has the number 15 spot locked up also. By the way, for those of you who have interest, the number 16 spot's going to go to North Baltimore, but they're not in our coverage area, so we don't talk about them. It would take less outrageous upsets to knock them out, but it would still take some. Number 1, Columbus Grove has 2 tough games remaining against 6-2 Lima Central Catholic and 8-0 Bluffton. So we'll really get to see what Columbus Grove is made of these 2 weeks. They will be the number 1 seed whether they win them or whether they lose by 30. They should already be sending scouts to look at North Baltimore, who will be number 16. 7-1 Upper Scioto Valley is now ranked number 2 and has locked up a home playoff game.
Hey, nice.
Win, yes. And I've been to that stadium. It's been a long time ago, though. I think
Have
it was in
you?
the 90s. Yes, like 30 years ago.
Wow, okay. I'm not even sure where Upper Scioto Valley is. The north end of Scioto Valley, I would guess.
McGuffey. It's in the town of McGuffey.
That, surprisingly, doesn't help me.
Okay. See if this does. They are the
Scioto-
Rams because they merged 4 towns together into the Upper Scioto Valley School District, one of which starts with R, one starts
Oh,
with A.
right.
Then there's McGuffey, which starts with M, and then there's an S town. I don't
I-
remember what the other 3 towns are, but
Do remember giving you that as a fun fact. So really, this is on me for not remembering my own research.
okay.
Shame
Oh, you
on
do
me.
that.
It's really close to where we're from. It's east of Lima by not much, near Ada and Kenton.
Yeah. Ooh.
Cat's still a back claws. So double shame on me for not knowing where the thing that I researched in a previous year's podcast was, and not knowing a town near our hometown.
When I saw them, they had an incredibly good player, Bo Hurley, I believe, who I thought was one of the best high school players I've ever seen. It's just that the rest of the team around him wasn't too impressive. But anyway, I always have fond memories of Bo Hurley.
Bo Hurley played in 1992, according to Buckeye rosters. Oh, maybe he's from.
I believe he did go to Ohio State. Don't know if he played much.
He has no stats, but that just might be because it was 92. He was inducted into the University of Findlay's the University of Findlay's Athletic Hall of Fame.
He must have ended up at Findlay, whether he started there.
Must have ended up as Findlay. He's a 4-year starting quarterback.
Oh, nice.
Got
So,
his
right
undergrad and his master's. So I don't know why Buckeye Sports had stats on him.
Okay. I guess I was right to be impressed by him in high school. He went on to be a athletic Hall of Famer at the University of Findlay.
Yeah. Also a 3-time academic All-American.
Nice. But anyway, our next team in this region is 7-1 Ada. They remain at number 5 in the standings. A win over 5-3 Pandora Gilboa or 5-3 Leipzig gives the Bulldogs a home playoff game. 2 wins places them in the top 4. 6-2 Hardin Northern moved up 1 spot to number 7 this week. If the Polar Bears lose to both 7-1 Upper Scioto Valley and 5-3 Marion Elgin, they will have to travel to start the playoffs. 1 victory earns them a home playoff game, while both wins probably earns Hardin Northern 2 home postseason matchups. So there's lots of teams here could get in the top 4, but the reason is they play each other, so they're not all going to. 6-2 Lima Central Catholic moved into the number 8 spot, and they can stay there with a Week 10 win over 3-5 Convoy Crestview. A win over 8-0 Columbus Grove makes a top 4 finish possible.
Another one.
It's our trend in this region.
Lots of people at the top.
Next, we have 4-4 Arlington. They rose one place to number 10
Probably
after a
not going to make a
loss.
top 4 finish.
I would think not, no. They rose at one place after losing to 5-3 Macomb
Sure.
because 3 of their previous 4 victims won last week. So, few second level points coming in, they'll take them all. The Red Devils look to finish between number 11 and number 14, regardless of the results of their last 2 games against 5-3 Leipzig and winless Arcadia.
Yeah.
This will also be a trend here, by the way. 5-3 Pandora Gilboa lost the spot to number 11 after they beat winless Arcadians. So Pandora Gilboa wins and falls. Arlington loses and rises.
Gotcha.
The Rockets play 7-1 Ada, but a win should not move them any higher than number 9. So don't expect any playoff games to be hosted at Pandora Gilboa. 5-3 Macomb gained 2 places to number 12 after defeating Arlington. With games remaining against 3-5 Riverdale and winless Elmwood, they will end the season between number 12 and number 14, regardless of the results of these games. Actually, they're more likely to finish near number 12 if they win them and 14 if they lose.
Obviously.
5-3 Leipzig still has a chance to rise from their current number 13 into the top 8. The Vikings would need to defeat both 4-4 Arlington and 7-1 Ada. The Ada game sounds difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to 2-6 Delta St. John's. They are projected to finish with the number 15 seed, win, lose, or draw in their final 2 games against 1-7 Parkway and 4-4 New Bremen.
Now, I know you just said that for fun, but have you seen a tie in a high school football game anytime recently or ever?
Not in a while. With the overtime system, it's not likely to happen. It does come up occasionally. Usually it's because a game is tied in the second half somewhere and then lightning strikes.
Right.
And the
cancellation.
It's teams, especially if one team is a long bus ride away and they don't want to return the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally a game gets declared a tie. I have not seen one in the state of Ohio yet this season. My spreadsheet does handle it. It just hasn't come up. I'd have to refresh myself on how to do that. I don't remember.
Very fair. Kind of figured.
Now I have a project for this week. I should remember how to do that just in case something happens.
Now that I've mentioned it, a thunderstorm will roll in.
Well, it's not on my weather app for this Friday. Because I wasn't sure I was going to get a spot in the press box. I've been assured I will, so now it's not quite so low. Those lightning delays. The rest of the teams in this region need a huge upset or two just to have a shot at a playoff berth. The one at the most realistic chance is number 17 Antwerp, who's 2-6. They have to beat 6-2 Paulding in week 10 to have a chance. Most likely it's going to be North Baltimore in that number 16 spot out.
Yeah, as you mentioned. Okay.
And down to our many MAC teams region here, Division 7, Region 28, as there are 5 MAC teams floating around here with us being in the heart of MAC territory. That tends to attract our interest here.
It sure does.
We'll start with 8-0 Marion Local, likely to be the number 1 seed in the region, though they could drop the number 2 if they lose to both 7-1 Minster and 8-0 Coldwater, which sounds more likely from their record than maybe it does from a reality standpoint.
Yeah, but that's like the first time we've introduced doubt.
I believe Marion Local's something like a 3-touchdown favorite this week, which would probably make them more like a 2-touchdown favorite against Coldwater. But
gotcha.
Talk about some playoff prep. Marion Local gets it to end the season. At 7-1, Minster could move up to the number 1 seed with an upset of Marion Local. While with a loss, the Wildcats should still finish with the number 2 seed in this week. 7-1 Sidney Lehman, likely to get passed by Cincinnati College Prep and finish number 4 in the region.
I kind of forgot they were in our region. Are they?
Yes.
Cincinnati College Prep?
Yep.
Heck of a drive.
Yes, it is. Sidney Lehman's game against 0-8 Troy Christian this week really doesn't mean much of anything, except to the players, of course.
Right, of course.
We, of course, are just from our personal mathematical viewpoint here. Number 5 team is 7-1 Ansonia. They can pass Lehman and get into the top 4 if they can upset 8-0 Preble Shawnee. Preble Shawnee looks pretty tough to me. That's going to be a fight for Ansonia. Next up, we have 6-2 Ridgemont at number 6, and I have a little side note here I came up with later. This is Ridgemont's first winning record since 1997. Congratulations, Ridgemont.
Goodness.
Way to go.
27 years. That's tough.
Yes. Well, happy to see it. Ridgemont 6-2, number 6 in our standings. Should remain between number 5 and number 8 at the end of the season. They still play 1-7 Corey Rawson and 6-2 Waynesfield Goshen. So kind of expecting to win the first one. Who knows in the second one? But should be between number 5 and 8 no matter what.
Good for them. All right.
Yeah, so think how long it's been since they've hosted a playoff game. I'd say probably never. They didn't do. I don't think there was much hosting going on back in 1997. I think
probably
it may have been all
not.
neutral site games back then.
Their concession stand people probably aren't prepared for the extra season work.
Well, if any of you are listening out there, start ordering extra stuff now.
Don't run out of pizza.
Although I'm thinking the popcorn is probably the high profit item in those concession stands.
Right, but it's not exactly hard to source more popcorn.
That's true. That is true. All right. Next up, number 6, Waynesfield Goshen, who we just mentioned. That's another team that looks to be stuck between number 5 and number 8 in the final standings, no matter what happens. They play 2-6 Morrill Ridgedale and then have that game against 6-2 Ridgemont. At 4-4, New Bremen's lost to Coldwater, has them remaining in 8th place in the standings. A win over 4-4 St. Henry should keep the Cardinals in the top 8. A loss, and the New Bremen will probably end up with about the number 10 seed in this.
New Bremen feels like better than a 4-4 team, but I guess so does St. Henry. And I think that's just the issue of being in the MAC.
Yeah, those are the type teams that float around in the between 9 and 16 that the teams 1 through 8 do not really want to host for their first round playoff game. And speaking of St. Henry, we'll do them next. 4-4 St. Henry can move up 2 places from number 10 to get to number 8 if they win over both 4-4 New Bremen and 5-3 Versailles. Sounds tough, but I believe they are lightly favored in those 2 games. If they lose them both, which is also not that unlikely, I guess, that should give the Redskins a number 12 seed. If they can win one and lose one, they should stay at the number 10 where they are right now. And you know what's really possible here, Rebekah, is a New Bremen St. Henry first round playoff.
That would be interesting,
Which
especially
is
with
weird
the
because,
matchup the week before.
Yeah, they're playing this week at New Bremen right now, so they could see each other again in 2 weeks. In between those two in the standings right now at number 9 is 6-2 Tri-Village. They should win their remaining games against 1-7 Bradford and 4-4 National Trail, but that still only gives the Patriots a 22% chance to move up to 1 spot into the top 8. 3-5 Fort Laramie is stuck between number 11 or number 13, regardless of the results of their games against 1-7 Delphus Jefferson and 4-4 Allen East. 3-5 DeGraff Riverside has the same story. They slid down 1 place to number 12 this week and should finish between number 10 and number 13. They have games against 3-5 Covington and 5-3 Milton Union. You would think those 2 games would give them more motion in the standings, but it really won't. And finally, we're going to wrap up with the team we haven't mentioned much this year, Rebekah. 2-6 Fort Recovery, now ranked number 18. Had a win over Parkway last week.
Okay.
If they lose to both 5-3 Anna and 7-1 Minster, that should keep them at number 18 and out of the playoffs. A win in either game should get Fort Recovery into the postseason as probably about the number 14 seed. What's nice about the 14 seed is They wouldn't have to play Marion Local or Minster in the first round of playoffs.
No, they just have to get past Minster in week 10.
Or Anna in week 9, one or the other.
All right. Something to aim for.
Hope is alive.
Hope is not dead.
That seems like a slightly less optimistic way of putting it, Rebekah.
Princess Bride, not completely dead, just mostly dead. Different
By the
things.
way, I just want to throw out a YouTube recommendation at this point.
Uh-oh.
Every week, if you're a college football fan, there's something called SEC Shorts, which is a little 4-minute video about various SEC teams. And there's a character they bring out occasionally called Hope, who shows up at teams' places and provides them with false hope. And usually the teams are running away trying to avoid hope hanging on to them. So anyway, just something I enjoy every week. If you like to cruise through YouTube, if you're, a retired guy that has time to do such things.
Gee, I wonder who that could be.
We're going
Are
to
you
wrap up
officially
this week.
retired now, or are you still just hanging out? I don't know. When do you switch the title from stay-at-home dad of kids who have left the house to retired?
I have officially retroactively moved my retirement date back to 2002
Nice.
and proclaimed myself retired at that time, at which point I took up substitute teaching and watching the kids and sports writing, which are basically retirement jobs. We'll wrap this up now with our 8-man football, which, by the way, is shaking out rather nicely. Sandusky St. Mary is only number 2 in our computer rankings, but their 5-0 conference record has clinched them a spot in the 8-man football 14 playoff. So congratulations to Sandusky St. Mary.
I'm surprised it took us this long to clinch a spot in the playoffs.
Well, when you go just by conference record, you have to team that has no wins but still has 4 games to go can still get the 4 wins, right?
I guess
you'd
so.
have to have more than 4 wins to clinch your spot.
Huh.
And Sandusky
Right.
St. Mary has. They are 5-0 in conference play right now. Toledo Christian and Holgate are both 4-0 in conference play. I would say they're not mathematically in, but yeah, they're going to be in the playoff also.
Mm-hmm.
They are likely to clinch their playoff spot in the next week or two. That leaves 2-2 Southington Chalker, 2-3 Fremont St. Joseph, and 1-3 Lakeside Danbury as the best contestants for that 4th and final playoff spot. And by the way, since they used just their conference record for who gets in the playoffs, that's the record I'm giving, not their overall.
Yeah, if the counts sound a little bit off, that'd be why.
Yep. In our computer points, actually, we have Toledo Christian number 1 in the computer points. They have the same 6-0 overall record as Sandusky St. Mary. They've played some non-conference games that brought in more points.
Mm-hmm.
But they're only 4-0 in conference yet, so they have not clinched their playoff mathematically.
Gotcha.
And that wraps up week 8. Woo! Week 8
Woo!
in the book.
We did it.
We will, of course, return after week 9 of the regular season with a much, much clearer playoff picture.
Absolutely.
And the week after the season's over, we'll have a very clear playoff picture, right?
And hopefully everyone else should too.
Anyway, our standard thing here, you'll notice we had a new this week. We received a comment question from yappy.net. So that's one more place where you can find me, and I'll actually notice if you send me a message on the private messages feature. I don't need to advertise that too much, but there it is. So where else can people send their comments and questions, Rebekah?
Well, if you don't want to find Dad on his random internet chat boards or out in public at Bud's Pizza on a Wednesday afternoon, you can leave a comment or question for us at Bruce Monnin on X, or by sending it to bdmonnin@nktelco.net as an email. In addition, you can place your thoughts in the comment section of our YouTube page. I have it on good authority that while Dad does not check the YouTube page, he does get an email whenever anyone gets a comment, so he will have to read it. And
I
of
actually
course,
did check. I actually
did you?
check the YouTube page this week because there's actually stats there. And while the number of people checking out is not great yet, the average length of time they watch the video before giving up on it is increasing.
Ooh, less random clicks and more people who intentionally are there for us. That's nice.
That's what it looks like. Yes.
That's very nice. Thank you so much. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you can find it, which includes Apple iTunes, the iHeartRadio app, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Just search for Bruce Monnin's Computer Points. Surprisingly, no one else has taken that name yet. So,
Just receive a notice that I have to send some money to someplace if I want to keep that domain.
should probably do that. We're building a brand
I'll have
here,
to do that, I
Dad.
guess. Yeah, okay. What is it?
What is
I forget
it?
the name of the I forget the name of the company. It's that one Danica Patrick used to do race cars for, whatever.
GoDaddy?
Yeah, that's it. GoDaddy. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that's all for week 9. We'll see you next week. So long, everybody.